My name's Steve Griffiths, and I work in the quality team at Homestart UK. And this morning, I'm joined by Charlotte Simmons. Charlotte, would you just like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure, Steve. My name's Charlotte Simmons and I work for Homestar Arran, Worthing and Ada, which is a little patch along the south coast.
Thank you. So this morning, Charlotte's kindly joined me to talk through how her local Homestart approached the Protecting Families assessment with us. And that we're just going to have a conversation. And the first thing I'd like to ask you, Charlotte, is the quality team were really impressed by the self-assessment that you submitted. Um, First of all, you covered all three indicators really clearly with a very good narrative that explained exactly how you had assessed yourself. Um, Also, your safeguarding checklist, we liked the fact that you'd RAG rated it, and it was clear where you were meeting the checklist requirements, but also where you'd identified any gaps or improvements, and the actions that you were going to take to meet those. And exactly the same for your file check documentation. The narrative was very clear, and it was very clear where you were going to improve and any actions to take to achieve that. But I think most importantly, your overall assessment was honest, descriptive, evidence based, and also demonstrated that you had clear procedures in place. So, can you tell us just a bit about your local approach to doing the self assessment?
Yeah, sure, Steve. First of all, thank you. It's always nice to get some positive feedback, isn't it? Um, I think we tried to look at this as an ongoing project, which is not something to be, rushed or not taken seriously. And the first thing we did was to watch the webinars. So there's some good webinars that are up on the intranet, and just sort of take our time in a planning stage, really, which I think is really was really helpful. So there's lots of resources on the intranet available, and it's a matter of kind of downloading all of those and kind of getting ourselves organised in terms of a bit of a methodical approach really to this. So taking a bit of time to review and to plan was really important. We also decided that we really needed to commit regular time to this. And when I say that, I do working from Homestart, as we all do. I appreciate that time is always of the essence, and it's really difficult sometimes to set time aside. But actually, it's really valuable to do that. So actually, rather than kind of leaving it to the last minute and sort of having to, spend days of trying to get everything done and feeling rushed and panicked, it was about starting early and just committing regular small amounts of time to it really. Um, so that was part of what we did. We also, as you know, Steve, I kind of reached out to you and we spent some time just for me to check and understand that we were going to get this right and kind of thinking a bit more about what you needed from us, which I
Yes.
found really helpful. And I would urge anybody that is not too sure to maybe um, reach out and kind of just check, really. I think that's always okay to do. So that was part of our approach as well. And I think that probably the level of detail that we gave to the first module, we probably wouldn't have done if I hadn't have sought some clarity and advice. I have to be honest there. I think that getting that input from you was really helpful in terms of our approach. So I suppose those, in essence, were probably the things that stand out for me.
Thank you. And locally, some did you lead it with support from other members of your team and from trustees?
Yeah, so I think it can be a bit isolating if you have to do these things on your own. And I do appreciate that, we've got different sized home starts, haven't we, across the
Yeah.
country? So not everybody, I mean, we're lucky we've got sort of 9 or 10 staff, so we're reasonable size. So we did it pairing up. But I would say that, with trustees, available. It should never be something that someone does on their own, because I think that's quite a lot to carry anyway. So I would urge everybody to kind of make sure that they take the approach of pairing up with with somebody, whether that can be another member of staff or with a trustee. That would be great, but not to sort of carry it on one person's shoulders. Really, it should be a pair, I would say, and also to involve other people. It's not something to do isolated. It's going to other staff members, going to other trustees, maybe with that experience or knowledge to sort of support along the way.
Okay, thank you. So the next thing I want to ask you is, having taken that approach and completed the assessment, what challenges or improvements did you identify, and also what strengths did you identify about your current practice around safeguarding?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the beginning, there's maybe a little bit of a fear factor because you're thinking that you're doing a good job. I hope most people think that, but also you're thinking, oh crikey, have we done everything right? Maybe a little bit of concern or worry about that. And I think recognizing that's really important. Also, I think when it came to the process, what was really good about it, one of the things that I really liked is it does identify your strengths really well. So it's really satisfying to be able to sort of work through, say the safeguarding checklist and actually go, yeah, that's great, we're doing that, brilliant. That's really, really, really reassuring. So the process in itself is really good for reflection, to be able to kind of acknowledge all the good work that so many of us across the country are doing, really. So that the process in itself is actually a strength. I think. I think also, I mean, you highlighted earlier that the RAGs is in the red, amber, green. We found that really helpful because the safeguarding checklist, when you first open it, can feel a bit overwhelming. I think it's quite a long document.
Yes.
So if you can actually use something simple like colour to identify, yeah, great, we feel we're doing that, well, that's okay. We need a little bit of work here, and actually the red to indicate, maybe we've got something we've missed, something we need to address. It's a simple system, but it means that when you go back to that in a week's time or in 2 weeks' time, it's easier to pick up where you left off.
Yes.
Because I think that's the thing, again, with the time factor. You want simple systems in place where you can kind of go, oh, I've got to get my head in the game here. What were we doing last time? Oh, yeah, okay, I'm going to look at the red. It's sort of quite a simple thing, but I think really helps. So I would recommend definitely doing that. That was definitely something we learned to be, I think, a bit of a strength in terms of the process. I think also the online system that we've got to input information into, again, can be a bit daunting. I think to start with, it's like new, different.
Yes.
Not all of us have the same IT kind of capabilities. There's that factor. But again, it's quite simple, I would say. I learned along the way that it's very much a working document type process here. So
yes,
it's not just tick, yeah, we've checked that off the list. It's actually, we put actions on there to acknowledge that we've got some work to do. I think that is realistic. And to not be afraid of that honesty you were talking about earlier, to say, oh, actually, this needs some tightening up, or this we've identified that we need to do a bit more around this. I think that is absolutely normal for us all, and it's just being honest about it, not feeling that you have to that you have to kind of just say yeah tick tick tick, we're there. It's just saying, yeah, oh, we did some checks here and we've identified that we need to do a little bit of work. I mean, that is normal life. So just be honest, set yourself some realistic action points, I think, as well. And that's one of the strengths we actually found along the way to the process.
Great. Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. I'm as the receiving organisation for the assessments, I think most organisations would find when they do a process like this, they'll most probably find there are some things they could do better, as well as some things they're doing very well. And quality is all about an improvement process. You don't have to have everything exactly right at the time you do the assessment, but as long as you can identify those and there's actions in place with clear timescales and somebody assigned to them to achieve them, that's absolutely great. I'm glad as well you found the RAG rating of the checklist helpful, because I think in my experience, some people are visual rather than word oriented, and I think if you combine the both, then it also works for those people who like visual stuff. Then the colors work really well, and as you say, it can really make it easier to see which of the parts you need to work on first. So I'm pleased you found that helpful.
Yeah,
Okay,
definitely.
good. So finally, and you've covered some of this already, but just wanted to go through what the benefits were there for you as an organisation in doing the self-assessment, and how will this impact on the way you deliver services? And I'm thinking here, not just for staff and volunteers, but also obviously for your service users, the family that use your services.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, Steve, I think probably I talked a little bit about that earlier on, but the fact that we can use this as a working process, that we can use the system to record our actions and then keep going back to those. So, it's going to keep kind of being part of our ongoing process now. I think also, I didn't think about this at the beginning, but this is an ongoing process for us all. We've got a
Yes.
2 year, I think it is, a 2 year kind of process set out on the timeline for self-assessment. So it's not a bad idea, is it, to kind of start off as you mean to go on. So I think the benefits really of getting yourself into a kind of a system and a process with this is really sensible. I feel that having gone through the first module, a lot of learning has happened across the board, and actually that will go on now to mean that when we do the second module, we've got a bit of a system and a process to follow. So again, I think that was one of the benefits of starting out, and as we meant to go on really. I think if everybody can, implement a bit of a process, it will make it easier as we go on to future models. I think also, you talked about kind of the benefit for for not just for staff obviously, but to check that we're doing things that we should be doing and to celebrate the things that we are doing well. I think also, if you think about the wider kind of audience, if you like, for volunteers, I think that sharing that good news about how we're doing things well, how they are doing the right things. If you think about, say, safeguarding, maybe that is about good completion of regular completion of diary record, some sort of diary record. It's about acknowledging what volunteers are doing well as well in this process, and I think you can bring that in to share with volunteers what they're doing well, and also ultimately we're all here for families and children, so ensuring that we are doing things properly, that we are known as a professional organisation, that we have high standards, and we stick to those, and we are respected for those, I think is really important. Families and children need to know that they are safe with us, and other professionals need to know that they are referring in to organisation that is has these standards and is not afraid to kind of put those out really, and to talk about them. So I think it's a benefit for for everyone really.
Yes. No, I completely agree with you, and this is obviously a really important area that the standards are looking at, as you say, because families and children do need to know that they are safe with us when we're providing the service to them. And I was wondering, is there any one tip for completing self? Because as you say, this process will be similar for all the other standard areas that we will go through over the next 2 years. Is there one tip that you would like to suggest is a good way to approach a self-assessment?
I think, again, I probably already mentioned it along the way, but I think that, you know, committing that regular time
Mm-hmm.
is absolutely essential.
Yes.
You know, and you know, believe you me, I'm probably somebody that in another walk of life would leave it to the last minute. You know, if I talk about in my education days, you know, doing my
Yeah.
essays that are, you know,
Yeah.
all-nighters.
Yeah.
But it's really not the best idea for this.
Mm-hmm.
It needs to be just regular, you know, nice, calm approach. Spend some time, you know, in the planning and preparation. I think that's really, really important. And you know, and you know, if you've watched the webinars like I did, you've kind of downloaded the resources, you've read it, and you've got questions, you know, reach out and ask
Yes.
for some additional input, because I found that really valuable. As I said earlier, I think I probably wouldn't have put the detail in that I did without actually sort of confirming that and checking that, you know, with you, Steve, really early on. So, you know, if you've got questions, just ask. You know, get that process in at the beginning. I'm sure you don't want to be swamped, Steve, I'm sure, but I'm sure that, you know, it would be more valuable if everybody kind of just clarified things at the beginning and then followed that process all the way through.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's my top tip really, is just to kind of spend some time, you know, regular commitment, and, you know, really make sure you've got a clear understanding at the beginning of what you're doing and how you're going to do it.
Yes. Yeah. And I think I would say to people as well, make sure you understand what the standard and what the indicators are asking you, because it's very easy to have your own idea of what they are, of what you think the indicators are saying. But if you read them, that's really, so if the indicator says as laid out in the handbook, make sure you go to the handbook so you know what's in there as well, because that's really what we will be assessing against with the submissions. And I think you're absolutely right to have the process in place, because that will stand you in good stead for the next 2 years as we go through the remaining standards. And I think it's important
Yeah.
as well that we've started off with actually one of the most complicated and complex standard areas. So the standards going forwards, some of those will be more easy to self-assess against, because they won't be quite as detailed. So thank you so much, Charlotte, for your time.
It's a
And
pleasure.
thank you very much for such a great submission as well.
Thank you, Steve.
Good. My best wishes to everyone at Arran as well. Take
Thanks
care.
very much. Take care.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.